Is it possible to transform the most boring moment of your day into something that's fun and joyful in just a few seconds? I think it is, and I'm about to show you how. Hi everyone, I'm Mike. I'm an artist based in the UK, and I sell my work, both originals and prints, all over the world. So the story behind this painting is another venture into plein air surrealism, but the circumstances were a little bit different to usual. Normally I tend to dive into the surreal on a planned painting trip. Maybe I'm heading to the beach, or maybe I just decide to do a landscape or something and put some surreal elements within it. But on this particular day, I just dropped my wife off at work and I was driving home, and an oil warning light came up on the dash of my car. And I knew that I had to pick my wife up in, a few hours, and it was a really cold day. And luckily I was fairly close to the car dealership and mechanics that, look after our car. So I pulled in there, chatted to the guy and explained the problem. And he said, well, we're happy to take a look at it, but, we're pretty busy. It could take up to an hour before we can even look at it. He goes, but you're welcome to wait in our waiting room. So in the car showroom, they just had a little area with a couple of seats and, some general magazines. So, hardly the worst thing in the world that could happen to a person, but certainly not what I'd planned to do for that hour of the day. So I was sat there just looking around. I have, at that point, no interest in buying a new car, so there wasn't really much to do. But then I remembered I had my backpack with me, and in my backpack I had my sketch pad and my Unipin marker. So there was a guy, he was actually a salesman in the showroom. He was in between customers and he was just sat about 30 feet away at his desk and just sat at his computer looking at his phone. And I just, started sketching away with the sketch pad and the pen. The sketch pad is a nice square format. It's a little bit unusual and I really like using it for that reason. I just did a quick drawing. And one of the great things about plein air sketching is that you kind of know, especially when you're drawing people, you probably don't have too much time. So it's a great way to encourage you to simplify form and be bold with your mark making, because obviously if the person moves, then that changes the pose, and then you've got to kind of work from your memory and imagination, which is doable, but it's just not as good as working from life. So working fairly swiftly, keeping things simple, I was able to create the line drawing that you saw at the start of the video, of the guy sat cross-legged in his chair, looking at his phone, at his desk. There's a cup and some hand sanitizer there. He's got his computer and his monitor on an adjustable mount, and his jacket's draped over the back of the chair. And while I was sat there at the car dealership, people over the course of the hour would obviously wander in. The salesman would get up and have a chat to them. People would wander around the cars. So I took the opportunity to do 3 more sketches. And then, it was just a minor problem with the car, as it turned out. But I came away from what could have been a really boring hour of just wasted time with 4 sketches. Some of those were better than others. But nevertheless, I'd been productive. And then a few days later, I fancied doing a bit of painting, but I wasn't really feeling energized enough to stand at my easel, and I didn't want to commit, my sort of full concentration to creating a brand new painting on a big scale. So I just stuck down this sketch with masking tape onto my drawing board, sat on our couch, had the board on my lap, and using my water brush and Inktense travel set, so super compact and easy to use, as you've been seeing, started to add washes of colour to the sketch. Now, the thing I haven't mentioned is that in addition to the sketch taken from life, as you've no doubt noticed by now, I added 3 little belted Galloway cattle in the into the drawing. So one on his shoulder or on the back of the chair rather, and then two down low. And so in recent times, I've created quite a few surreal paintings, and often the plein air ones incorporate reflections in water, cloudy or dramatically coloured skies, and belted galleries appearing, well, quite frankly, where they shouldn't normally be under any normal circumstances. So I decided to include a little element of those three things here. So although he's in his office, you can see this dramatic sky in the background, and then there's some evidence of sort of water down in the lower part of the painting, and then we've got these three belted Galloway cattle in miniature doing their thing. So using the water brush has the obvious advantage that it keeps all of the water you're using self-contained. One of the complaints that I hear about water brushes is that compared to a normal, big mop brush and perhaps a more conventional way of using watercolor, they don't really dispense enough water to really soak the paper and let you put down a lovely, one of those lovely fluid washes that can only be achieved with watercolor. And that's pretty much true. But I tried to take whatever characteristics of the utensils and medium I'm using and kind of work them to my advantage. So for example, with the sky, if I was using normal watercolor applied in the conventional way with a big mop brush, I would probably, get a really nice layer of water on there first, and then load my brush with paint and apply a sweeping wash. But rather than do that, for example, on the chair here, I can just be quite controlled in terms of sort of just simple colouring in, really. And when we go back to the sky as we are now, then I can just indicate the clouds and leave the white of the paper showing, and just kind of, as you saw earlier, I just rolled the brush across the paper and it produces some characterful marks. So I just try and make the most of the limitations of the equipment, and that's true whether it's a water brush or a ballpoint pen or acrylic paint, whatever it is. All of these things have got limitations in some ways, but you can tune them to your advantage. So just putting a few marks on the monitor screen there, because I definitely didn't want to indicate anything concrete on the monitor, but I wanted to sort of hint at some reflections. And then the shadow I'm adding now is added just enough, I hope, to indicate that that pillar is cylindrical in form. So the curved shadow, I'm hoping, conveys that. Up to the little belty now on the chap's chair. Now the question, of course, is, are these miniature belted Galloway cattle really there, or are they in this guy's imagination? Is he bored at work and he's looking at his phone, and is he dreaming of the herd of belted Galloways that he's got? Is the ground wet because he's dreaming of the seaside? What's going on? Either way, having completed the watercolor layers, I let the painting dry and then came in with a 0.5mm nib unipin marker. The original drawing was done with a 0.2mm nib. And then I worked my way, oh, hello, that's my cat just walked across my lap. And then either way, what was I saying? Oh, I worked my way around the drawing, adding some more definition to a few key areas. And here's the finished painting. Yeah, I know. So this is actually one of my favorite plein air surreal paintings, because I feel it's kind of, it was spontaneous in the sense that I changed that boring moment in my afternoon to something fun for me and was able to sketch the guy. And then maybe the guy in real life was kind of bored with his day and sort of taking a little break in his head. And then I hope I've kind of reflected that possibility in the painting with the inclusion of the sky, the water on the ground, and the three belted Galloway cattle. Well, maybe you've got some thoughts about this painting, and if so, feel free to leave them in the comments below. But either way, thank you very much for watching. It's very much appreciated. Hope you enjoyed the video, and hope to see you next Sunday for the next episode of the Sunday Art Show. Thanks again for watching.